Well, I do have a few chairs left. Good. Good. I wasn't sure how many people would show up tonight, and I am impressed. I'm amazed. Poetry is alive and well. Well, I don't know how many people here know that this year, 2013, the library is celebrating its 100th year of providing service to the community, and we happen to be in a city hall building that is also 100 years. The library was founded by a committee of 7 members of the Larkspur Women's Club under the leadership of Miss Belle C. Brown. And I'm sure she did not allow any talking. But I'm glad that she felt that the community needed a library, and I'm honored to be the director of this library, and it's well loved. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Richard Brown, who's the master of ceremonies here, and take it away.
This is a celebratory evening because of the centennial, and so we've ended our readings with 2 1913 poems from the poetry magazine of that year, celebrating its centennial as well. 1913 was a tremendous time. Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, the Cubist movement, atonal music, T.S. Eliot early, Bloomsbury Group, Marcel Duchamp, Ezra Pound, they're all going full steam ahead. So it was quite a time in the history of our literary and artistic endeavors in the United States.
A Pact by Ezra Pound, 1913, Poetry Magazine. I make a pact with you, Walt Whitman. I have detested you long enough. I come to you as a grown child who has a pig-headed father. I am old enough now to make friends. It was you that broke the new mood. Now is a time for carving. We have one sap and we have one root. Let there be commerce between us.
This is called Thor in Autumn. The hammer's made of rose petals and desire. I use it to hit the images that rise to choke the sky inside. Beat them into powder, reveal that coming blue that calls, thin, still voice, cooler than the owl's cries just before dawn.
We poets come to the edge, lakeshore, or imaginal sea. Lung-filled we dive, a slap to the face, often into murk where memory is met. Farther down, we goggle at what depth we can dredge, just moments until arms upstretched pull toward surface shine. As a birth cry out into one more air-filled day.
Geese. Dawn. A gray scud of clouds. The banter of migratory geese searching an expanding city for resting grounds they used last spring. As when a man finds a landmark in his hometown missing, a corner market razed, and in its place a shining coffee house. Or when he traces the curve of his lover's breast, lingers at the scar, seeks assurance in what remains familiar. Sunrise. Sycamore leaves on wet lawns. The geese move on beyond the roof lines.
Real men write poetry. Those four words initially seem as if something is missing, which can either draw you closer or exasperate. But insert another adjective in front of poetry, and the reader gets told. What if it were a question? Real men write poetry? Not cast doubt, where there should be none. Nothing's wrong. Nothing is wrong. I'm fond of those four words alone, far better comrades than mano a mano.
Clarity. There is precision in the universe, in the explosions, in light trapped by gravity. And in the human touch, there is precision, in the fist, in the heart, the hard truth, the hard fact. The mother who gives birth to a stillborn. Such clarity. And in her prayers, there is something that covers the silence, something that overwhelms.
Yesterday's enlightenment. In the moment before first light, the darkness softens like it always does. A breeze flutters through the wind chimes, rustles the dogwood, while water rises towards a boil inside on the kitchen stove. There is only now. Now is the past the earth revolves around and away from. In the moment of first light, I think perhaps it was some god I'd heard that day in the river riffle, in the choir's refrain one Easter Mass, in the thrumming down low in a lover's throat. Some god at work in the cosmic gravity, the leafing tree. In the sudden brilliance of the breaking light, I forgive myself my mistakes, allow myself my secrets. But that was yesterday.
Postcard from Ricky. Ricky here. Sorry I can't hightail out there to dig the pretty words you guys let fly. One good word beats a whole mess of ideas. I like, say, promiscuous. Not sure how to spell it or what the hell it means, but it is so sweet on the lips. And plum, full in the mouth. Jolly has a shaky feel, and hey-mow is a good chew. Tell 'em I love 'em all. Tell 'em I'll be there next year. I swear next year for sure. You're Ricky outside Topeka.
What stirs on the equator? Ubud, Bali. Our eyes open to the indigo of dawn. The birth of light reveals silhouetted swoops of terracotta and thatched roofs. The medley of crickets and frogs sign off. Crows crow rowdy reveille that amplifies into our concrete alcove. A dove coos guttural as if it had drunk too much rice wine. A female gecko bids a final chirp for a male that didn't come home. Movement begins with swallows darting for mosquito breakfast. Ducks let out of their cage waddle onto the dike. A man wearing a conical hat, not a psychedelic purple one, steps out to tend his rice paddy. Large palm leaves begin to sway. A line of herons flies over clouds, reflecting scarlet into the paddies. They are said to be the souls of the warrior caste that chose death over living in dishonor under the Dutch. Rose turns orange, now yellow, as the sun breaks the horizon. A radiant eye for this new day.
Bright earth. Through the window, I see titmice in the storm doth crouch and spring, as if the deal they made with earth fused wings and feet, touch the ground and go. Okay, me too then, but how? The simple move past winter stuck, this stuck down season, that's the trick. Use what we have to learn just what we know. 1 foot unsticks, rolls on from earth's bed. 1 elastic heel rises, stretching yesterday to now. The arc from earth to earth, a common root, knit, release. Well-being, tragedy, all burnt through the molecules disband. Bold smoke ascends to gods that disappear as mist. To talk of time is this, rock toward what will be through what is, a song the birds already know. An ankle crackles, tiny bone talk sings aloft through shin flute, knee pack, thigh, the cradling hips that socket heaven. All creations in one stride as rocking forward, all the cupped-in mass heaves toward the next, nurtures now, and now, and now, and weaves the left behind with brain song swirling in and out. The rear foot rolls and balances, a season shift accommodates the whole. Inside, ancient rivers course. The great pump fills and paints the track within, all corners, curves and brackets, well to kiss and pass. Bright earth we are, bright music blown back toward no source but all. Bright wind we seek, bright lights return, we seek return.
Yard. The end of summer is at hand. Peaches lie on the ground. An old dog goes from backyard to backyard looking. He finds some newspapers spread out on a back porch open to the financial page. It's all about ups and downs. He remembers an old bone and the time he had with a dead squirrel. This dog has never known a dead-end street. He travels in circles and has never come close to going the same way to anywhere. He lies down on the newspapers. He thinks about snow.
Dry land. Excerpt from an extended dialogue.
Push me if I end too soon, Bob. Cramp up, leave off in the middle.
Stop me if I carry on and get lost in some wild roaming where I'd been too many times before.
Here's time for wishing under moonlight, sitting in the dark below old stars we think have messages.
That have their shapes and give them meaning, whiffs of places we wished we'd been.
We're old enough to ramble about our long lost, our misbegotten, times away from where we were headed.
Headed, Duke. We came here, to this spot by chance.
When I was young, I looked out from the pasture hill. The farm and dent, knoll above the creek, wrapped my arms around one big picture.
What'd you see up there? Why not sit in a nice cool hole, a cellar, a cave, underground in some nice sweet dirt?
Well, I was young and full to the brim. I needed bright skies, space to pick out the pieces, follow my dream.
I see, you were in a bad way then. Set up to look out there into the sunrise glare, your aching eyes.
I planned to lead the way, climb pinnacles, congregate, congest my conclusions, scratch my rules into stone.
Okay, Duke. I remember when Dad took me up to Horse Hill to look at Sputnik Pass. We talked up there in the dark, Soviets, stars, moonless silence, up there looking up.
Yeah, both of us wonder at times, don't we, Bub?
We do. Out there, is that Thule fog or morning mist, smog or smoke?
Where?
Where the hell out there? Past the bridge. There.
I see.
What do you wonder about? I mean, like wonderful or wonderbar.
Well, I wonder about us, how long we've been sitting up here under sky, cloud, and heat.
Long time, man.
We sit like this regular. You say something and we're off again. We wonder. That's what we do. All that time.
All that time. Maybe too long, Duke.
Well, we're watching, Bub. Checking for change. It's what we've come to do. Season's heat. No rain. Where the sun rises. How long for the barge to cross the bay?
Look out there. See the steam rising. We saw it a week ago, just the same. Something letting off steam.
Pollution.
You think?
Into the air.
I need a drink.
Yeah. There's no reason to rhyme why we sit alone on this rock out in the open where the wind clips our ears and scorches our nose.
Get lost.
Oh, I don't care if you sit here. I'm going to go sit over there under that tree.
That's a scruffy bush. No shade, no rock to sit. Here is my home. The wind in my face, grit in my teeth, and a cough in my
You
chest.
don't want more?
Bugger off.
Oh, I'm going.
Wait,
What?
just a minute.
Oh, I don't see why.
I admit, your voice. Just talk to me about the green meadow, ripe fruit on the trees.
Well, there's a farmer down there with a compost pile, crops that keep the earth full, and earthworms he feeds.
Earthworms. Rabbits came up the valley last summer where it's cool. A bunch of butterflies are gone. But earthworms, they have it right. Go underground where they won't roast. Do you wonder what we're headed for?
Do you?
Worries me. Scary that so many don't.
Well, what to do? What to do? Sad about the forest, birds, more war, want, fighting, so much dust.
Yeah.
Those clouds swirl like finger paint against the blue.
Third grade art, we put our hands right in it, all over the page, all curls like that.
Magic green from mixing yellow and blue to make so many shades.
I added black for forest and white for spring, then added red for shit color.
Oh yeah, the freedom then, when green was green. Before it had to save the world, green moves, green hope against gray.
Mine always ended up gray and wrinkled paper. I knew I added too much. Clouds coming in. See something about us in the clouds, you think?
Well, I see a reclining lady. She's turning into an iguana.
I see a horse's head. So often I just see horses in clouds.
It's psychology. Pegasus, a Rorschach that tells us something.
Hey, Duke, do you ever keep thinking of a picture that keeps popping out from nowhere? Real photos that hold you like a face in your mind?
Well, yes. I mean, I see where you're coming from.
There's this photo I seen, Russian front, 1941, a bomb exploding in the distance onto a burned landscape, scorched flat, 4 or 5 bombers overhead, and right out front a reindeer, full rack of antlers, head turned around and up like a statue, towards the bomb. Shell-shocked reindeer, it says below.
I'm sorry, Bob. I'm sorry you own it. It's a mind wound. We're pocked by 'em at our age. Pock-ridden.
The worm says, I was born blind, no arms, no legs. I'm spineless and wriggle from light. But Darwin dug me studied me to no end. Maybe he wanted to replace his loss of God with letting nature show the way. I'm his cold-blooded middleman, adapting to the squirmy reality known as natural selection. I eat the dead and leave a nitrogen trail in my slime. I uplift subsoil and decompose stuff. The French might call me a deconstructionist, eating holes in what one believes solid. Sometimes it's better to bend around what's rooted. Check for me below your downspouts. I like it wet. When resources are scarce, I'm part of the solution. Ounce for ounce, we worms rule. We're nature's response to opportunity. We're all about entry, worming our way in. But keep those little limp dick projections to yourself. In Australia and Africa, we grow to 20 feet. Put that in your Smithsonian.
Myself, at a distance. Daybreak. A black dog strays from chasing the yellow tennis ball his master's been chucking into slack tide's easy water. His wet body follows his lusty nose up the beach to high tide's refuse line. Get away from there, the master yells. The big lab lifts his heaving snout from the sweet rot of a blue-gray carcass for one obedient second, then plunges his wild nostrils down into the fetid pungence. Casting one long look back towards his master's call, he breaks away, slips into tidal marsh thickets. When his tail slaps the saltbush reeds, butterflies fill the air, a burst of black and orange wings.
In time, because the spring is coiled too tight, because the battery is dead, because water got inside, because all the moving parts have stopped. The watch that runs like a clock is exact. The other is inexact and runs 5 minutes behind every 24 hours, loses a day every 288 days. Time running backwards. The watch that runs fast is ahead of the game, doesn't get stuck, is soundless because it has no moving parts. The watch you check before you arrive somewhere. The watch you glance at mid-sentence. The watch that measures the pulse. Watch of paralysis. To see, to view the body, the fatal, the fate, because all the parts have stopped. Because you didn't get there soon enough. Because you were too late. "100 years of wind. It is a moment meant to make us forget the moment. We will close our eyes in a cave of wind. What happens in a moment takes 100 years. What happens in 100 years takes but a moment."
The operating instructions read, "No hands on any dial, no arms across boundaries. Time dissolves into ripples of reverberation. We must be dismembered in order to remember what has been lost."
Jeffers asked us to uncenter our minds from ourselves, to see the world without humans at its center. In a nest of sticks above the river, Black beaks screech out for their mother. Time eddies.
Time lapses over the dark mountain, over the dark pine wood. Corvus corax descends. Dismembered flesh hangs from her down-curved beak. In moments she fades through treetops, down to her desperate huddle of bare life and feathers.
It could be said time feeds her to her chicks. In the blind eye of the wind, carrion grows the shape of flight. The great law says that balance comes in reconciling opposites. Yin marries yang, and flight arises from within the hollow feathered bones. Buddha and tree. The long-legged, upright Buddha stands sheathed in shade beside the fence, 15 paces from my front door. Its half-closed stone eyes gaze in and down toward roots of the sheltering evergreen that acts as patron, arbor vitae, tree of life. The statue balances atop damp earth, 1.5 meters above a rich flow from the leach line, shunting effluent, nutrients that feed life, bound in Mother Earth, our origin and end. Mother Earth, Father Tree, and in between the Wise One, union of the realms in stone. In his day, the living man Gautama taught mankind to open up its eyes. Is this the secret? To see what we already know while we grow from wriggling babes to tottery elders? Remember truth that sand sifts from our grasp? For Buddha's graven image, in and out are one, green volcanic stone quarried overseas from where the man attained enlightenment by the Bodhi tree. This slab of figured rock hauled to the west ends up in my front garden for now, whatever that may be, trailing clouds of glory. In darkness, tank slurry nurtures the foundation. Isn't that what spirit does? Though man climbed down eons back, we still long for loftiness, still envy deep roots. The statue's sensuous carved lips suggest a faint amusement, or at least irony. He made no claim to godhood. His advice, find the God within. It seems our kind has trouble even looking for it. The stone lips curl gives cause for hope that we might still break the mystery of dust to dust, might yet learn to play the circle game with love, and find a way to smile that way in freedom, to close our eyes halfway in ecstasy, share that all-forgiving humor. On blind ground we root. Is truth so hard to bear? Inside the elegant head of moss-licked stone, no white matter lurks. Its kiss-curl lips present a sneer turned inside out by loving kindness.
Hitchhiker. In the dim basement of a friend who wasn't coming home from war, his wife said to me, "Take anything." I wasn't into things then, but I saw him sitting cross-legged, a plaster of Paris Buddha painted a ruddy gold. That faint smile, a lotus about to open, yet distant from my state of startle and numb. Of the 10 perfections, equanimity came to mind. Renunciation was in there, but more as a vague concept than a practice. I merged with her generosity and her husband's sacrifice, so I hesitated before asking, "How about this?" I bear-hugged Buddha out the door and sat him in the boot facing the rear window of my old Porsche. He camped there for 2 years, a hitchhiker covering my back, slowing me down. He didn't move with me to the Big Apple. Not sure whether that was his discernment or mine. I left him on a grassy rotary in Virginia, where, if the awakened one opened his eyes, he could see unhindered in all directions. Left him behind to hitch a ride with someone else who needed a good listener. Another bare boot reminded me my friend wasn't around. Driving away, emptiness in my rearview mirror and more impermanence ahead. There should be a road sign.
Moment. For decades, they had lived through what came upon them, what had been given, granted, and passed, shared, traveled the world, rivers and canyons, the Taj and many towers, cathedrals, concerts, and every expected ceremony. Now they sit outside waiting for meteors, their bodies weary from the day, breath in unison, looking up once more. And as light streaks across the zenith, far above the rising moon, they turn toward each other, a slight movement of their heads, eye to eye, seeing what they wish again to visualize, the face of each, given and granted, full of that familiar spark that sustained them through so much, the spark of their very being, contained, streaking into their next moment.
Brother, you say you'll tattoo angels on your left arm after showing me 6 months of new needle tracks, pockmarked into your skin and muscle. The demons and devil goats sleeving your right arm writhe in their swirling vortex. An artist's hand, swollen, inarticulate, struggles to light a Marlboro. If I was humble enough to talk to God, I would ask for fire, a purifying fire, to burn us both down into the very ground.
Labor camp. Moon-fraught night before each downpour, they play the dance threadbare night, ceaseless tango. Under the drenched stars, exhausted violins play. Play, officer, his polished finger taps the assignment table under moonless dark. They play dirt-tired violins, tango time, tango terror. They play while officer assigns the next danceless day, dead tired, under slaps to wake them. Tango time, the master laughs, swings his hard hand at the face, downpour on the roof, the drenched stars fall. Play, play the dance, torn fingers, keep the cadence, tango terror. Play more into the tireless, threadbare night.
Pain outside the body. She used talcum on her face so that even her love for me did not show. When she died, everything seemed so plain. She used to ask me what it was I was thinking. I could see her worry and would answer nothing. And she would say, no, there is something.
I once saw a man fall overboard into the sea. The ship steamed away at 30 knots. This is not a great speed. And the horizon looked to be a perfect circle. I was always the center. And when the man who fell overboard was saved, I thought about myself.
Her body was still warm. I spoke to her in a soft voice, not wanting to wake her. With my hand, I smoothed a few stray hairs from her forehead that always used to bother her. This one time, they stayed perfectly in place.
Facing the wall. Her mouth opens for more morphine. Eyes closed, index finger touches across at her throat. Head turning toward the wall, where we look at her 4-year-old's cutout art. A perplexed ladybug with button eyes, with pipe cleaner whiskers askew. Goldfish that look happy enough, although only one is ascending. Above the art, a black and white photo of Wynton Marsalis blowing his trumpet, with a personalized inscription saying, "Thank you," though I don't know for what. Maybe Wynton felt permission that night to play with uncharted feeling. Maybe it was one soul recognizing another. Diagnosed while pregnant, she breastfed for only 2 weeks before chemo began. The child's voice fills the room. "Mommy, are you dying?" She was, and did, 4 days later. After the funeral, the daughter takes a before-bed walk with her father, sees a twinkling light from a now-dead star that reaches out from a long way off. "Mommy's saying goodnight to me." I think about the art on the wall again, the self-portrait of a little girl with colored hearts on her bathing suit, and yes, she is smiling. And the most recent, a pink elephant, its trunk hanging low, black blobs for eyes, one higher than the other, as if asking a big question.
Early sprinklers. Only a puddle on the bricks outside, gleaming in the dark, before first light settles its proportions. Seeking home, the shiny liquid face has sent a tail toward the dormant winter creek, over littered bricks, a tarp of shine, a schoolgirl's ragged sketch lost when the old day emptied out. It shocks me, sleepy cold, before I've had a chance to size it up. My senses, quick wrench, sharp alarms, the raking stab of instinct when danger snarls too close, and then the tension loses turgor. I come to ken the old dark fear, dry, haggard face it pushes forward this day like all the other million rusty days, a caterpillar tunnel scraping through the years gone down. There is the swiveling reflex check to seek escape in case of need. And then the dog, let through the door to pee, walks past the water glare without a sniff, and terror's flare snuffs out inside my chest with a whisper from the monitor about old fools. Context is all. The dark woods fade. Danger's jacked up howl transmutes to songbird's trill, and breakfast hunger thrums deep rumble, soft in the fuzzed up dawn.
Reclamation. For lack of funds, a park along our urban river turns wild again. Blackberries and thorns, honey and bees. Behind a locked gate, a mountain lion stalks deer on a dirt trail as salmon pulse upstream. On the bridge above the river, commuters honk their horns.
Somewhat after Henry James. This I cannot say for sure, since they were most likely not as they presented themselves. For years, I suppose, it would call it my obsession, or if not that, something I might call a distant curiosity, In love, I could not be certain, as they seem to flit through life, quite furtively, so that one would have difficulty pinning them down to any one emotion. If I had seen them in different circles, it might have been more clear, more certain. It was my wish to invite them to some evening soiree, but that seemed not to be in the cards. I would imagine how they would present themselves at the door, elegant, yet somewhat understated. It was my wish that they would show some side of themselves I had previously not seen. If I had been more forward, I might have tried to ask a clear question about their close relationship, but that seemed never to happen. So I can only suppose, ponder, and maybe never really know them in the way I deeply desire.
Every life is measured, yet it is impossible to know a whole day. No moment is fixed. The shadow of a hull and keel follows under the water. The wake and drag follow. Who doesn't suffer from absence? Du Fu said, "It is better not to expect." He also said, "Be careful, expect." On the Grand Canal in Hangzhou, he sat in the bow of a skiff and passed under a rainbow bridge toward banishment. A singing girl along the bank played a lute, her reflection rippling.
Improbable Trinity. An empty page, Indonesian beer, and tropical heat. Perfect ingredients to contemplate the infinite. Empty asks for a fresh expression of being, but I'm not falling into the mystery. Habits hang around like today's temple guide, interpreting information that veils my intuition. The beer bottle and I both sweat as part of the undivided one. I may be a little tipsy, but I'm still interested in what's true. That fish-shaped kite flying above the rice paddy may be an imitation of the real, but not in the eyes of an innocent child. Perhaps it's the heat that begs my surrender. This is a culture that blesses with water, not fire. I'm going for a swim to purify, an empty page dive into quiet fluidity, content to listen for sounds that renew before they form into words, before those bubbles release into the humid air.
Every cat should have a library. Every library should have a cat. Spoon song. You just can't be that starved, you smiled and said, dubious at my open-eyed delight. I lay drinking music from your head, a saraband of roses in the night. I'd just watched what I thought was love abort. The next part in my roundelay was yours. Can you blame me if I take the tour, dance my jig, and laugh to see such sport?
Walking back to the road at last light. Hair and bone, remnants of a tiny skull, teeth intact. Berries, hair, bone. Coyote scat in rough grasses, lit by August's blue moon. I lope behind him on the game trail, switch my flashlight off to darkness.
Vessel. A straw animal burned at the altar. Hibiscus plucked from the topmost branch, time and truth. The sun sets on the 9 pools, rises on Kunyu Mountain. To the antelope, falling light renders the river visible. Invisible light passing through prisms, light into color, each color attached, blue into blue, ocean, bonnet, heaven, yellow into yellow, dandelion, lion's mane, wilt and field of wheat, red into red, color of heartbreak, remorse, a red offering, millet, red millet, everywhere red is sown, labor and harvest. Then the entrails of the ox are red, then the fat for light, then the flesh consumed to sate hunger, red vessel of wood, of earthenware, vessel of ether, vessel of light.
Oh, the days. That flitterfly spring ramaged with windchum. We regaled ourselves in consummated daybright along the swampish byway.
Oh, oh, the days, those woeful nights.
Followed fast the leaf fall, when the wee part slogged, modish, trumping its flatful vowels, matriculated away.
Oh, oh, those days, those owish nights.
And when snow snap hit, we reconundrumed out into the glarish light, lost in all that white pain, traipsed blindsided through the bulky walkaway.
Oh, the day, oh, those awesome nights.
And when silex night followed spendthrift dust, we ruddled ourselves, hurt heart to heart, downed in the down, needed warmth.
Oh, that day, our longsome night. Fabulous.
Irradiations. Over the rooftops race the shadows of clouds. Like horses, the shadows of clouds charge down the street. Whirlpools of purple and gold, winds from the mountains of Cinnabar, lacquered mandarin moments, palanquins swaying and balancing amid the vermilion pavilions against the jade balustrades. Glint of the glittering wings of dragonflies in the light, silver filaments, golden flakes settling downwards, rippling, quivering flutters repulse and surrender, the sun broidered upon the rain rustling with the sun. Over the rooftops race the shadows of clouds. Like horses, the shadows of clouds charge down the street.
I'm a big fan of your work.
Thank you all very much. See you again next year.
job.
Yeah, you guys are great.
I fucked up